up there?
Oh, please.
So there was a vehicle parked in this space and this space. The video evidence I reviewed did show the shooter come through here. And then because of the distance of the camera, the pixels start to become a little bit more pixelated. When the shooter was in this area, general area, approximately, he fired several rounds. The first round he fired in this parking lot from the, you can see from the Hillcrest Memorial Funeral Home, the gas expulsion from the rifle as it rises up, and you can actually see it move up.
Okay. And then that's in any one of your reports? Is that in one of your reports?
It should be in one of my later summaries.
And the later ones, but it's not in the critical timeline, right?
The shot is in, or the sequence of shots would be in there, but that particular statement about the potential gases and smoke from the firearm.
And you're getting that from a very poor pixel view of the, because we've seen the funeral home videos, the jury's seen them. You're talking about that. You're looking at the same videos that this jury has seen, right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's not a direct angle. It's a very odd angle, and they're not focused on the parking lot of the school, correct?
It's the parking lot is captured in the angle.
But I understand that. But the purpose of the funeral home putting up their camera wasn't so they can look at the parking lot of the school, right?
I don't know what their purpose was.
Usually, some common sense. They're probably focused on the security of their own establishment, right?
I would say that was the most important, yes.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They're not focused on the school. You're picking up part of the school, but they're not focused on the school, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so that's what you're talking about, because we've seen that video where the shooter is walking calmly, and then you see him just get lost in between cars.
He gets, I think you can tell that he's actually walking between these two cars, and then you lose sight. You cannot track the shooter here.
Yeah, but see, you can't track him, but you automatically start curving up this way when you can't track him, right?
I know the gunshots he fires from this general location. I can see the gas and
Shells.
smoke, not the cartridge casings, but the smoke coming from the rifle.
Okay.
And as the plume of smoke rises up, it's on.
What would be the evidence of that gas and smoke actually being there from that pixel big camera?
You can see it.
What would be the evidence of that? Let's say that there's different opinions on what you think is that smoke from that very odd angle way over here. What would be the evidence to substantiate and back that up? What would you look at?
There was nothing else there that could have caused that plume of smoke.
Okay, what evidence would you show? Would it be spent shell casings, right?
I would show the video from Hillcrest, no.
Yeah, but it's in evidence. We can look at it again. I'm just saying, but the evidence to support that, there's shell casings here, right?
They're fired cartridge casings, yes.
Right. So empty shell casings, right? They're empty? Okay. And the jury is seeing where they're at, and they're placed where they were. And you understand how firearms work, right?
Yes.
Semi-automatics?
Yes.
Whether it's a handgun or whether it's a rifle, it ejects to the right.
To the right, slightly to the back.
Okay, fair enough. But and depending on how you're holding, whether you're moving, what you're doing, there could be different factors on how far that projectile goes and where it ends up landing. But we can get an idea, correct?
Correct.
If somebody shoots a weapon, and it's assumed that I'm shooting a weapon this way, I'm not going to just the shell doesn't just go, it doesn't drop straight down.
Generally, no.
Yeah, I mean it gets trajected. It's right ejection.
Out to the right and slightly to the rear.
I understand. Yes, sir. I understand that. But I mean, it's this way. It's not here.
Correct.
So when you follow spent shell casings, you know that you don't place the shooter where the shell casing is.
Correct.
Right. There's somewhere to the left of it.
Yes.
And depending, and there's people that have different opinions on that, whether it's 1 foot or up to 15 feet. But there's a huge range of where someone can be, right?
I wouldn't say a huge range.
Well,
It's going to be within reason.
Well, 2 to 15 feet on extreme sides.
I would say closer to 10 feet max,
Okay, in your opinion.
in my experience.
I understand, but there's other people with different experience that may say 15. So 10 to 15 at max, to be fair, and 2 to 4 to be minimal. Is that a range? Can we work with that? So if we have shell casings here, then in your opinion, 10 feet, other people's opinion could be 15, but for sure somewhere between 2 to 4, up to 15, 10 to 15 feet, the shooter is to the left.
Yes, it also depends on the surface. And whether
Exactly.
the cartridge casings land in grass
Or cement.
or on concrete.
Yes, sir.
Or pavement.
Yes, sir. And we see that. There is some concrete there as well, right?
Yeah, it's some type of a mixture.
All I'm saying is there's a lot of factors is my point.
Yes.
Okay. And so that's what you're talking about, the opportunity, right? You're talking about seeing it, I want to make sure I'm understanding this. You're saying that Adrian over here, I'm trying to recreate this. So Adrian over here, behind the building, parked over there, would see this puff of smoke, maybe, and could say, that's someone shooting, so I have a better opportunity than Sergeant Coronado, Officer Mendoza, and Officer Saucedo that have line of sight of this guy. I want to make sure I understand that's what you're telling this jury?
Can I clarify something?
Absolutely, sure.
So the plume, can I stand up here?
You may.
So the plume of smoke that I observed on the surveillance camera around here were going to be with the first shot that the shooter fired when he arrived here. Adrian,
Say that one more time, I'm sorry.
so the plume of smoke that I saw in this general area, that would be associated with close to probably the first shot that the shooter fired here, and Mr. Gonzalez had not driven by him yet.
But you're saying probably, right? You're saying, so let's, can I go by what can we just take your fact as the probably that may be true?
What are you referring to with probably?
You said probably, I'm not saying that.
No, the plume of smoke right here that is associated most likely with the first shot.
Most likely is a probably, right?
Well, the plume of smoke is noticeable right after the shooter fires his first shot from this area.
But you can't say for sure what that is, right? You're just saying it can be associated.
I can't tell you for certain
Yes, sir.
that it's going to be the gases expelling from his rifle. However, there's nothing else here that would cause that same
And
buildup.
from your investigation, where was Mr. Gonzalez when that happened?
At this point, he had not even arrived yet.
So you're surely not telling this jury that you want to hold him accountable for a shot that he didn't see, right?
I never did.
Well, but remember, you can have a seat now if you don't mind. But remember my first question before we went through this exercise, I said, who had the better opportunity and ability? And I said, these three officers with line of sight and with the long rifle had a better, and you said, I disagree, and I asked you, what did you mean? And we've just gone through this exercise right now.
Can I explain myself?
Sure you can.
Can I stand back
Yes,
up
sir.
there? So when these shots were fired right here, Mr. Gonzalez had not arrived. The three officers at the intersection had not arrived. Mr. Gonzalez had driven past and had parked up here. The 14 seconds that passed, he gets out. When he gets on the radio and says shots fired, he has now clarified.
You heard something.
He understands that shots are being fired because he put it out over the radio.
But can I stop you there so we can go step by
Sure.
step? But before that, it was dispatched that there were shots fired, right?
Dispatch did say that.
Okay, so I mean, he just finally heard them himself, and now he's saying, I'm at location and I'm hearing shots fired, and they're trained to report what they hear, see, perceive. That's part of your observation, so he's doing what his training tells him to do, right?
So he perceives and hears shots being fired and then gets on the radio and broadcasts that.
I don't think that's contested. I think that but you're saying that shows that he has a better opportunity than people that saw the shooter?
So at this point, once he's here and once the shots along 102 and in 104, once those shots start happening, these officers haven't arrived yet.
Okay.
They're not in a position, they don't have the opportunity.
Okay.
Here, a possible opportunity is, because you have cover on this building, in this area right here, even with a handgun, an officer can come down here to gather additional information, and this is the opportunity that was available to the first officer, Mr. Gonzalez.
For 22 seconds before Mendoza showed up, right?
Well, the two opportunities are independent.
Well,
of one another.
let's go one thing at a time. So you're saying that you believe that Mr. Gonzalez, Adrian, had a better opportunity or a different opportunity than because shots were fired, and although he didn't see it, he heard them, right?
He acknowledged he did, yes.
Well, sure. Is there a special class in either TCO training, Texas Commission on Law Enforcement? Every officer in Texas has a TCO license, correct?
Yes.
And in the Academy of the Texas Rangers that distinguishes shots fired and say, where'd that happen? That's on the northwest side. I didn't have to see it because I can tell, that's on the southeast side. Is there special training to get your ears to be able to tell, not just where shots are fired, but then when there's echoing involved? Because you know about echoing, right? Okay. So is there special training for that?
There's firearms experience that we have, but no
That wasn't
special
my
training.
Yeah, so there's no special training. Is there a special type of ear, a gift from God, that gives somebody that special ability to tell, can you do this? Can you do what you're expecting Adrian to do?
Not that I'm aware of.
So you can't do something that you expect this jury to hold Adrian responsible for. Is that a fair statement?
Are we talking about what I would possibly do?
Well, I'm happy to talk to you about that, but I know you didn't come to testify about that. I asked you something specific about your ability, about your ears. You're trying to hold Adrian, it seems like, responsible for something that you've admitted to this jury that you can't do.
No, I can hear shots.
I know that, but do you know where they're coming from?
I'm going to find them.
That's not what my question was. I mean, because when you hear a shot, you're admitting that you don't know where they're from, right? So you're saying that there should be
No.
something you can
I'm not admitting I don't know where they're from. I'd have to hear the shots in order to be able to make that determination.
So I want to make sure that jury understands you, because I'm not sure I do. So you're telling this jury that you can be somewhere, forget about the stress factors, they're called human factors, right?
Right.
Let's just set aside human factors for a second. That you can be in a situation and someone can shoot a shot, we can put a blindfold on you to make sure, to test your abilities. Bah, bah, and you can say, that is on the northwest side of me. You're saying you can do that?
I'd have to hear the shot in order to be able to
But
make
you should
that
know if you can do
determination.
this or not. Can you do that?
I can, there have been many times where I have been able to accurately find the location of where shots were coming from.
So you heard a shot and you knew where it was coming from. You heard a shot and you said, that's on the northwest side of me. That's on the southeast side of me. You did that? You've done that before?
I have, yes.
How many times?
I would say a handful of times in my career.
And have you done it with echoing off a bill? I don't know if anybody believes you. With all
Objection to
respect.
sidebar comment.
I'll move on.
Sustain.
He's right. I sustain myself, Judge. You're right. And so you're telling this jury that you have that ability. Do you, and that-
Objection is repetitive now, Your Honor.
well, let me finish my question first.
All right, finish the question.
Thank you, Judge. So you have that ability.
It's on a fired shot by fired shot basis.
Okay, fair
Yes,
enough.
I have been able to accurately determine where shots were originated.
Now let's take it a step further. Have you used this unique ability to tell where shots are coming from once they echo off buildings? That's the second side, part of my question.
I have heard echo from shots, yes.
Okay, I understand, so have I, a lot of people have. But now we're taking it a step further, we're testing your ability. So you're saying you can hear shots, know where they're coming from, you said you can do that, amazing. And number two, now you're saying that you can hear shots echoing off a building and you can still tell where they're coming from. That's what you're saying?
I can't comment on that unless I hear the actual shot.
I'm asking if you've done that before. Have you done that before? Have you heard shots echoing off a building and being able to determine where they're coming from? Have you done that before? Yes or no?
The shots echoing off the building from the shots striking the building or the sound echo?
The sound, sir. Or both. Because there's an echo, right? When shots are fired near a building or at a building or around a building, there's an echoing effect, right?
If you're outside and there's no hearing issues or no major obstructions, when there is an echo present, in my experience, the first shot's always been the loudest, and then the echo is more muffled.
That wasn't my question, but I understand that. My question was, you have heard shots fired around buildings or at buildings, and even though the shot makes an echoing off that building, you have the ability to tell where it's coming from. That's my question.
I have accurately determined the location of fired rounds with echoes involved.
You're the first. That's amazing. Okay. And so that's what you're saying now. You're saying that 23 seconds before Mendoza shows up, and then 2 seconds later, Salcedo shows up with the long rifle, and then 3 seconds later, Coronado shows up. You're saying this 20-something seconds when Adrian gets there is dealing with a frantic person, hears shots fired. He doesn't have your special ability, so he radios it in and says, shots fired. And you're saying that's the opportunity that you say he could have had to know where this shooter is at? Is that what you're saying?
He had approximately 50 seconds from the time he parked to the time the shooter entered the west door.
That wasn't my question though, because you were making a distinction between the time before Mendoza shows up, because that 50 seconds includes these three guys over here with long rifle, right?
Portion of it does, yes.
Yeah, so you were talking about this portion when Adrian was by himself, right?
Not in that area where
Yes.
he was parked.
Okay. Remember my first question? Remember my first question, and it was, I thought it was simple. I was saying Coronado, Saucedo, and Mendoza here had a better opportunity and more ability to engage, distract, deter, stop the shooter than Adrian Gonzalez did without line of sight. And you said, no, I disagree. So now we've been doing this back and forth, correct?
The reason I disagree is
Mhm.
because before Mendoza, Saucedo, and Coronado can't take action if they're not there.
I know, and that's why I was talking about this 23 seconds, and now you're going to 50 seconds.
Well, because they're too independent.
I understand that. Do you understand my questions?
Do you understand my answer?
I've asked you questions first. Do you understand my
I
questions?
do understand your
Okay.
question.
And my original question, let's start again. We can start again. I'm going to start again. Coronado, Mendoza, and Saucedo being here with line of sight with 3 officers on the same side as the shooter. You're saying do not have a better opportunity or ability than Adrian Gonzalez that never had line of sight, did not have a long rifle, was dealing with a frantic person, a witness, maybe a victim he didn't know at first. You're saying that he had a better opportunity than them?
Objection repetitive, Your Honor. We've gone through this 3 or 4 times.
Judge?
Okay, you can answer, and then we're gonna move on. Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Rephrase your question.
Just answer the question and we'll move forward, okay? Coronado, Saucedo, and Mendoza on the same side as the shooter. The shooter's on the west side, right?
Yes, right.
Same side with line of sight possibilities with a long rifle. Do they have a better opportunity and ability than Adrian Gonzalez?
No.
They do not. Okay. So, with that being said, I mean, I think that says everything, but if that being said, so you're saying, so these guys here, he's shooting at the building, and there's an echoing. Do you believe that there was an echoing going on?
Yes, for some shots, yes.
Okay. And they believe that they were undertaking fire, right? They believe they were.
Yes.
And you would agree that there's no defects behind them,
Yes, correct.
and there's no defects on their vehicles.
Correct.
There's no defects from skipping on the pavement, right? Because they can show some defects on the pavement, correct?
Correct. We did not look.
Nowhere, and there's houses behind them, right?
Yes.
And there's a funeral home over here.
Yes.
And those are structures that would, because bullets don't just disappear. If they leave a weapon, a firearm, they have to end up somewhere, right?
Yes.
And so there's 0 objective evidence that these 3 individuals are being fired upon, right?
0 objective that they were not being fired at.
There's 0 objective evidence. Objective meaning that it doesn't matter about what you're feeling or you're perceiving. There's 0 objective evidence that they were receiving fire, gunfire, over here.
I would prefer to use there's no direct evidence to suggest that they were receiving.
Well, that's what I mean by objective. Like, okay, objective, direct evidence. There's no direct evidence they're receiving gunfire, right?
Right.
But they perceived like they were. Do you need me? They perceived like they were, right?
Yes.
Okay. Let me represent to you, and maybe you know through your investigation, that Saucedo told Coronado, I think I see him, can I take a shot? I'm gonna take fire, I'm gonna take a shot at him. You knew that?
I did.
Okay. And so that we know now, we knew then, we've known the whole time, that Saucedo saw the shooter.
According to his interview, it appeared as if he saw the shooter.
Right. And matter of fact, he asked to shoot this shooter, but you know through your training that an officer doesn't have to ask for permission if they feel like they have the need and the fact scenario that gives them the authority to shoot, right?
Legally, according to Chapter 9 of Texas Penal Code, no, they don't. And departmental policies may.
Your Honor, I'm having trouble hearing the witness's answers. If Mr. Hood could sit down when he asks the questions, I'm sorry, I'm just having trouble hearing.
You can probably pull that microphone, if you're talking that way or looking at that diagram, just pull it down.
Where does the government want me to sit to ask my questions, Judge? I'll sit there. Where do you guys
Well,
want
I
me to
mean,
sit?
the local rules are questions are asked from the council table
I-
unless you're utilizing a diagram or
Well,
approaching the
I was
witness.
about to, but I understand that I'm making them uncomfortable, so I'll go over here.
Whatever.
And I haven't objected to the sidebar.
Well,
Your
you can
object all
Honor.
you
I was
want.
just asking.
I'll sustain the objection to both, to the sidebar, and let's get a witness question on the table,
We're
please.
trying to. So, what, make sure you speak into the microphone for them. And so, we know that Salcedo asked for permission, and you mentioned Chapter 9. You're specifically talking about 931 and 933, right?
Yes.
Of the Texas Penal Code. Self-defense, and then defense of third person.
And the deadly force.
And use of deadly force, yes, when you get there, proportionate use of deadly force, right? And so under 931, 933, and in the whole chapter, you don't ask for permission if the situation, if you have a reasonable belief of apparent danger and is imminent, then you can use force proportional to what you feel that you're receiving. Right?
Technically, yes.
Well, it's legally, it's not technically, legally, that's the fact, that's the state, that's the standard, right?
Legally, yes, but departmental policies may be different.
I understand, but let's talk about the law, because every department's different.
Correct.
Right? And you know, Sergeant Coronado thought that was ridiculous for him to be asking for permission to use force if it was necessary. You knew that, right?
I was not aware of that.
Okay, well, he testified to that. And so you have Officer Salcedo that had the opportunity because he saw the shooter, had the ability because he had a long rifle, but he didn't take it, right?
Correct. He had opportunity and did not take the shot.
And ability meaning he had a long rifle. I mean, that's different than a handgun.
It is different, yes, correct.
And so having opportunity and ability, he could have distracted, deterred, and stopped, denied the shooter entrance into the west side of that building, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we're still dealing with Adrian on the other side, dealing with a frantic person that could have been a victim or not, was a witness, hearing shots, calling them in, right? Calling them in at right here at 11:32:09, right?
Yes.
Repetitive again, Your Honor. About the fourth time.
All right, I'll sustain the objection.
Give me a list of questions you want me to ask him.
Which ones?
Which ones? What do you want me to ask him?
Pass the witness.
No. Not a chance. Not a chance, brother. Not a chance. I know it's hurting you. So that we have that at 11. So then at 11:32:58, we've talked about now that the shooter is inside the building. Now let's talk about what everybody does once the shooter makes it in the building. Okay, I want to direct your attention to that.
Okay.
So we have the fact that the shooter enters the building. Now Adrian doesn't know he entered the building, correct? We know that now.
It's possible, yes, he doesn't know.
Right, and well, we have direct evidence to show and to show that he doesn't know. But so Adrian doesn't know he enters the building, but those three officers do know he entered the building.
I don't know that for a fact.
Well, they interviewed, right? Salcedo and Mendoza and Coronado, they all interviewed. You know that.
I know, yes.
Okay. And they all said that they saw him enter the building, but they thought he was going to run through the building.
I'm going to object to that. That's a misstatement of the facts, Your Honor.
Well, he
They
can
said
say
they
no
saw
then.
him.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, rely on your own recollection of the evidence. Proceed.
Well, you reviewed their interviews, right?
3 years ago, I reviewed their interviews. I don't recall the specifics.
You're here to testify in front of this jury. We're talking about your critical timeline, and so the last time you reviewed them was 3 years ago?
When I created more so the synchronization products,
Mm-hmm.
that's based on the video and audio evidence extracted from those files.
But you're part of the investigative team, right?
I had a part in the investigation, yes.
But you know that Mendoza and Salcedo and Coronado interviewed, right?
I do know that they interviewed, yes.
And they believed that this shooter was going to run through the building.
I don't recall what they said in their interview.
They knew that he made it in the building, though.
There was radio traffic shortly after the shooter made it into the building that said, "I think he made it in the building, guys."
Yeah, and that wasn't Adrian that said that?
It was not.
Okay. And at the time that radio said The shooter, I think the shooter made it in the building, there was a gunfire right after that, right? At the same time. Look at your timeline, please. Correct. So at the time that somebody, not Adrian, said, I think he made it in the building, and you know that was Coronado, right?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach? So at the time that the shooter makes it in the building, Coronado says, at some point, right after, I think he made it in the building.
It's after Coronado had already gotten back into his vehicle and was driving down to the other intersection.
Yes, sir. And so as that's happening, even though there's knowledge that this shooter made it into the building, these three officers do not pursue the shooter.
They all three relocate to the other intersection,
They do not pursue the shooter.
not through the west door.
Right. And the shooter entered the west door.
Yes.
And at this time, Adrian is still over here and has not seen the shooter and doesn't know he entered the west door.
I don't know what he knew at that time. I can only tell you what video and audio information tells us.
But there's no evidence suggesting where he was located. There's no evidence that he saw and knew that he entered the building, right?
I have not seen any evidence today.
But what you do know is these people know that he made it in the building. But instead of pursuing this shooter that is shot at the school and is now in the school, they relocate to the other side, right?
I don't know that they knew he made it into the fourth grade district.
So, you understand, he is shooting up the west side of the building, right?
Yes.
One of the three says, I think he made it in the building, right?
That's after they had started to relocate.
But does your investigation indicate where they thought he went?
That particular radio traffic was Sergeant Coronado saying, I think he made it into the building, guys.
I know, but I agree with that part. But is there any part of your investigation that indicates with these three officers, where did they think he went? I mean, he didn't just disappear, right?
I would not think that they would have thought he just disappeared.
Right. There's a man shooting at a school, and then one of the three knows he made it in the school, and everybody drives off and relocates.
Can we look at the other diagram that has the vehicle
Which one do you want to look
locations?
at? Which one? I'll look at whichever one you want to. Which one? Come pick it up. Let me get you the easel. Look at the next one. There's one over there. Hold on. Right here. Where do you want to put it?
Wherever you want to, is fine.
Is this the one?
This
Okay. Yes, sir. Of course.
Can you hear me okay? So, on the day of the shooting, these parking spaces were occupied. These parking spaces were occupied. Depending on what obstructions they had here and how they were positioned, they were kind of kneeling down, at least what we saw from Coronado's dash cam. There are obstructions between their line of sight and the west door. So it is possible that they could not see or did not see the shooter enter through the west door.
And what do you think they thought? What does your investigation show? Because they know that there's a shooter shooting this portion, sorry Bill, shooting at this side of the building, right? And then one of the three thinks he made it in. What does your investigation or the Rangers' investigation show? Where did they think he went? Where did they think he went?
I don't know what they thought.
Okay, but nobody asked them?
I'm sure one of the interviewers did.
And do you remember them saying they knew he went in, but they thought he was gonna run through the building?
I do recall hearing at one point about numerous bailouts that occurred in that area, and that sometimes they would be concerned about them running through the fourth grade building, but I'm not sure who said that.
I understand, but there's some evidence, and maybe somebody else can test, maybe they'll call them, but maybe there's some evidence, that they thought he was gonna run through the building, right?
I can't attest to that. I
Okay.
don't recall.
But regardless, we know that these three, because it's in your animation, these three blue things, that are supposed to be the cop cars, instead of going to the west side door, they do this at different times and they drive all the way around, correct?
Correct. Sergeant Coronado, when he was, and I'm having to approximate this, somewhere in this area is when he gets on his radio and says, I think he made it into the building, guys.
And then instead of going to the building, these two relocate also.
They, all three, with Sergeant Coronado leading, follow and drive up here and take up different positions in that area.
And so there had been shooting already by that time?
Yes,
And so they didn't go to the shooting.
they actually went in the direction of it.
Wow. So I guess all of this, so if they would have gone this way, that would have been in the direction also, right?
Well, the shooting is taking place here, and they are relocating from here to here, so it's in the general direction. If they-
No, the shooting specifically is happening here, leading up to a door. So you're saying that this is in the direction of the shooting?
Well, if you recall, I said earlier, with these obstructions, I can't say, and I haven't read anything to say if they actually saw the shooter go in the west door.
Okay, well, that's fine, yes, Cesar. But you still believe the position is that Adrian had a better opportunity than these three guys, right?
Objection, asked and answered, Your Honor.
Sustain.
Sustain. Now, as Coronado, we saw the video, but as Sergeant Coronado's relocating, we see him passing Hill, Officer Hill.
Yes.
And I anticipate the government asking you that Officer Hill was dispatched to a certain location, right?
Yes.
And you talked to him about that on break?
Yes.
So they kind of anticipated this line of questioning. They said, well, where was he located? So you guys discussed where Hill was dispatched to, right?
No, I already knew where he was dispatched to. I just didn't.
But they wanted to talk about that with you. Correct? You can answer. There's no attorney-client privilege here.
We did talk about that, yes.
Okay. So can we go to 11/29/36 in your timeline?
Okay.
So that's Hill specifically was dispatched to 715 Old Carrizos Road, right?
Yes.
Have one vehicle accident. Was there a vehicle accident at that location?
No.
But that's the same transmission that every officer heard, right?
It was broadcast.
So what I'm saying is, so whoever had the right station set would have heard the same thing.
And was listening to the radio.
Right.
Yes.
And so Adrian didn't get something different. He got the same broadcast, if you heard it, as Officer Hill.
Possibly, yes.
But instead of going to a corner and standing there, Adrian drives onto the campus, right? With the same dispatch information.
He does. He came from the opposite direction.
He goes into it and he hears shots fired, be advised, shots fired, right?
That was broadcasted.
Yes,
So, and then he relays the shots fired.
No, I know that, but I'm going off your critical timeline here. So that was, Adrian heard the same thing as Officer Hill did, right?
Which time are you still looking at 11/29/36?
I haven't moved from 11/29/36, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't know if Mr. Gonzalez heard that transmission. I can only say that it was broadcast by dispatch.
Well, he drove, objectively, we know that he obviously drove 2 shots fired, or what he thought were shots fired.
That or a crash.
Was there a crash at the school on the southeast side of Robb Elementary?
He drove by the crash.
That wasn't my question. Was there a crash on the southeast side of Robb Elementary all the way where Adrian drove?
No.
But he still went there?
Yes.
Okay, because he was going to the shots fired. So if you're testifying that you can't say for sure if Adrian heard this, right?
I don't know.
So then other broadcasts that they ask you about, you can't tell if you can't tell this jury if Adrian heard that either.
I don't, correct, I can't. Only if somebody acknowledges, can you get confirmation that they heard the radio
I
transmission.
understand. But we do know that we can see, because the jury's seen this, Coronado, when we see Officer Hill staying there, and I won't go over that again, because we've talked about that, and then we know when he eventually, 25 minutes later, makes it into the building. And then Coronado parks his car, right? Now, all this time, because in your animation, and look, it sounds horrible. It bothered all of us to hear it, because you hear the shots, and you're trying to use your opinions of putting the best thing together the way, with limited information. But that doesn't take into account Miss Flores being with Adrian, right? Because that's not in your calculation.
Correct.
Yeah, and it's not that part's not your fault because you didn't know, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so, but at that time, he's still dealing with that, and then we see Officer Coronado coming around. Have you reviewed body cam from Mendoza?
Which Mendoza?
Good question. There's Justin and there's Jesus, right?
Correct.
Jesus Mendoza.
I have.
And is that anywhere in our reports that we can review?
It would be in the large drive of files that we turned over.
And so Mendoza's, in your syncing, Mendoza's body cam starts at exactly the same time as Coronado's body cam, correct? 11:35:10.
I don't recall when Jesus Mendoza's body camera starts. I'd have to look it up, but I know Coronado's started at 11:35:10.
Can you verify? Because Mendoza starts at 11:35:10, but I want you to check my homework.
And on that, I might have to actually look at the video to confirm the start time of it.
Okay. Okay, but if it started at 11:35:10, exactly at the same moment as Coronado's, would that how do you recall how that could happen? How two officers in completely different locations start their body cams at exactly the same second? Do you have any explanation for that?
Coincidence?
Okay. Because we don't have any body cam from that corner, do we?
Which corner?
Good question. The one of Groves and Geraldine, where those three officers were there when they had line of sight?
Correct, we do not.
And that would have helped us because then we could have potentially heard from their body cam Mr. Limones and anybody from the funeral home yelling instructions, he's in the building, if they were saying things like that, right?
Yes.
I believe the government asked you that hearing, and we went over this exercise, hearing shots fired tells law enforcement to act and go to the gunman, right? If you hear shots?
Correct, to go to the shots.
Right, but like my follow-up question is you have to know where the shooter is to go to a shooter, right?
Or have a general idea of the direction from which shots are coming.
And Randy Hill didn't do that, correct? Immediately?
I think by the time Randy Hill arrived, the shooter was inside the building.
But there was a lot of shots. I mean, how many shots do you think happened at 160 something?
Total,
Yes, sir.
before breach?
Yes, sir.
There were 162, not including the shots
Yeah.
at breach time.
And you're not saying that all those were before Randy Hill showed up, are you?
Correct.
And all those didn't happen before Coronado showed up at that corner, correct?
Correct.
And they didn't happen before Mendoza or Salcedo showed up, right?
Correct.
Matter of fact, how many shots had happened inside the building by the time Coronado, Mendoza, and Salcedo had line of sight? How many shots had occurred inside the building while they were on that corner?
I'm sorry, give me the beginning time and the end time again.
So how many shots, just to give you a framework, how many shots had that shooter shot inside the building in room 111 and 112 when Coronado, Mendoza, and Salcedo were at the corner with line of sight? How many shots had happened inside the building yet by that time?
You'll have to give me the start and the end time, because I'm gonna have to calculate it up manually.
Well, can you look at, let's just do some thinking. So look at your critical time. When Mendoza, Salcedo, and Coronado were at the corner,
Correct.
had any shooting happened inside?
At that point, no.
That was my point. 0 shots had happened in room 111 and room 12 when those 3 officers were at the corner with line of sight, right?
Correct.
direct your attention to your animation. So you said, I think on direct examination, if I heard you wrong, please, I'll take it off my notes. You said Adrian called for cover at 11:34:28. Do you remember saying that?
I've got to double check that. What was the time that you said?
I wrote down, you testified 11:34:28.
Correct, at 11:24:28, Mr. Gonzalez said, somebody can give me a cover unit over here.
That's 11:34:28?
Yes.
Where is that on the critical timeline?
It's not on this version of the criminal timeline.
Is there another version that I don't know about?
No.
So why isn't it on this version?
It was a time I created a spreadsheet of all of the radio traffic that with the times adjusted. And that particular file that contained that communication by Mr. Gonzalez was noted on that spreadsheet.
Can I look at that spreadsheet, or is there a way for me to look at it? How can I?
I have it right here.
Did you give it to the government?
Yes, it's included in the,
When did you give that information to the government?
that would have been turned over, I believe, September of 2024.
2024?
Or, I believe, 2024, yeah.
Let's keep going then. We've got a lot to go through, so I want to make sure. I want to talk about your animation. So I guess what I wanted to say about the animation is that's you putting together your rendition of what happened, right?
It
Based off
was
evidence.
all based upon
Right.
video and audio and photographic evidence.
And is it fair to say that it still is limited by the same way this was limited, correct?
There are limitations with it, yes.
And I wasn't being disrespectful earlier when I said that's your opinion, meaning you're doing the best you can to put things together based off analysis, your training, information that you may or may not have at the time. That's all I meant to say. That's why I said it's your opinion, your rendition.
I put it together based on verifiable video and audio evidence because I wanted to project the most unbiased view of the event. My ultimate objective was to tell the truth of what happened as accurately and as completely as possible.
Can we show it again without the sound? Can we do that? Oh, just because there's family members in here. We're gonna with your permission, can we watch it without the sound?
Yes.
Is that okay, Bill?
Yeah. I think he knows how to do it. Yeah.
They can do it. Yeah, they're gonna mute it. Do you mind if I ask you when to stop? Sure. Thank you. We can play. And this is the sync time that you use for the critical timeline, correct?
Yes.
This should link up.
Within a second because of the millisecond.
And so as we're waiting for him to drive down here, he's already shot his grandma, right?
Yes.
You're right. Now we're gonna see Mr. Limones and Mr. Briseño come out of the funeral home,
Yes.
but Claudia Perez is still back at the funeral home.
Yes.
And that's the young lady that you interviewed.
Yes.
Okay. Now at 11:29:36 is when dispatch puts out to Randy Hill that there's been an accident and then and then shots fired. Is that correct?
Yes.
Because Mr. Limones is actually on 911 when he's walking out there.
Yes.
This is the resident. So real time, he's telling them, shot, being shot, being shot. And then at 36 is when there's a dispatch. Right there, right?
Yes.
Roughly. But then in the same call, he's talking about running towards the school, wearing black, shooting at the school. That's all in the same 911 call, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can you guys stop it at 11:30:58 the best you can, please? Pause. Thank you. So by this time, there's been a dispatch to Randy Hill that shots have been fired, but Limones, Mr. Limones has been saying it's towards the school, running towards the school, wearing black, right? I want to make sure we have context right here.
Yes, and there's a simultaneous 911 call from
Angel Marin, correct. And there's another person in the same room. It's very interesting there that they have people just answering phones and dispatching at the same time, right?
Right.
Now, in just 2 minutes, the shooter makes it in the building. In 2 minutes from here, he's in the building. So this is very quickly.
Yes.
Okay. If you can keep playing, please. Pause, please. And this is where we kind of continue, please, guys. Pause, please. Okay, so you're saying that you believe he was standing exactly right there, and Adrian, because of tunnel vision, drove right by him. Based off what you're saying.
That's a strong possibility.
Possibility. Fair enough. Continue, please. Pause, please. Now, you're aware that where you put the X's, where you say Adrian was, the shooter was, that's where the shells were found, right? They're not found further, they're found on this, because the reason why the pictures the jury has seen, it's in evidence, we see the grass line versus the pavement, the parking lot, we have the pictures. So that's where the shells were, right?
I made the X large enough to encompass the area where the general area where the cartridge casings were, and any other general area where the origin of those fired cartridge casings could be.
But
The X just denotes that shots were fired in that general location.
Well, but literally the X denotes where the shells were found, and that's what the really X denotes, right?
And possibly where the shots originated from.
Well, we went through this exercise, right? Where shells are, that means the shooter is not where the shells are, right?
Correct.
Okay, and so we talked about this, went back and forth, so we're gonna give some ranges. On the low side, 2 to 4 feet, on the high side, 10 to 15 feet. You say 10, others say 15. So it's anywhere between 4 to 10 to 15 feet to the left is where a shooter would be if there's shell casings right here, right? I'm giving the range.
Can I stay with that?
Sure.
So the fired cartridge casings for this X in particular were located in this area. So I attempted to place the X in the approximate general location to the left and slightly forward of where the origin of the rifle that fired those shots would possibly have been.
But just to be clear, the shells were found here.
They were actually found slightly over to the right.
The jury has the pictures, okay? And so all I'm saying is if the shells are here, we have the pictures, then somebody who shot those shells typically would be 4 to 10 to 15 feet to the left of it.
I would say between 4 to 10 feet.
But others would say 4 to 15 feet.
Not others.
I understand that. So you say 10, so it could be 10 feet, but it would not be here, the shooter, right? If it was 10 feet.
I'm sorry, say that again?
If it was 10 feet, using your numbers, if it was 10 feet, it would not be here, because this is where the shells were.
May I stand up here?
Yes, sir.
So if you take into account here and you start to draw the feet back, it could be anywhere in this general area.
Okay. That's okay. But Adrian drives by, and we have Mr. Limones and Ms. Claudia Perez that say that at some point this shooter was between cars, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so, and then this is where Mr. Gonzalez, where Adrian sees Ms. Flores, and then they're here. And then we've gone through the timelines of I just want to place, I want to make sure that we have that. So there's no indication that the shooter came out here and shot, right?
There was no evidence.
No evidence of that. And because there's these big AC units right here surrounded by a chain link fence.
Yes.
And it's a chain link fence that you can see through.
Depending on where you're standing.
Well, I mean,
Only because of the AC units blocking the vision.
aside from the AC units, the fence is not going to obstruct your view much.
Correct.
That's what I'm saying. And so somebody could be standing here, but somebody could perceive them standing further to the left, right? I mean, that perception, stress, all that stuff.
I can't say what somebody could perceive.
But you understand, we talked about human factors, you understand perception distortion?
Perception distortion, can you define
Well,
that?
we understand time concept, when you consume, condense, thank you. Time condensation, you can condense time, that's something that happens under stress?
It is possible that a person could lose track of time.
And so what perception distortion is you lose track of what perception and what reality is because you perceive it something else. You perceive that it's something else. That's all.
It's possible there could be some slight changes.
Okay. That's all I'm saying. There's auditory exclusion. You did a good job explaining that for the jury. Auditory exclusion. Right?
Yes.
Tunnel
Yes.
vision. And so as we go back up here, if you can play it, please. There are a number of rounds shot into the building, correct?
Yes.
If you can pause. And you've placed Adrian outside of his vehicle here at
So-
some point.
He's placed outside the vehicle, however, I cannot verify exactly where he's standing at this point.
I understand. But that's why I was asking you earlier about Ms. Flores, because that 2 to 7 minutes would be important for you to make this assessment about what he was or wasn't doing during this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay, continue, please. And that's Officer Mendoza. Pause, please. And so we have Officer Mendoza, and so this is where it's a little bit past it, but it's okay. So it's 23 seconds roughly. Mendoza's behind Adrian, right? Roughly.
Approximately. Yeah,
Approximately. And then we have Saucedo, and this is Saucedo with the farm. Now the jury has seen the dashboard, because you've seen Coronado's dashboard, correct?
Yes.
And the dashboard is different than body cam. Dashboard is on your dashboard, and it's a camera, and it shows the front of what's going on in front of your vehicle.
Yes.
But Coronado had a body cam, and so did Mendoza, but we don't have body cam from the corner, from either one of them.
Correct. There is dash camera video from the vehicle that Juan Saucedo was driving. It's not the clearest, but there's dash camera.
Okay. But it's not facing in a direction towards the school. Please.
If you can we
Keep going.
get Saucedo in his stopping position? So this is going to be generally the orientation that he's facing, and so it's going to capture a view. But again, the video there was an issue with the recording system, so the clarity is very poor.
Very poor. But this is my point. They are 20 some odd seconds behind Adrian, right?
Approximately.
And they're not dealing with a frantic witness or potential victim. He didn't know at first, right?
Correct.
Or suspect. And originally he thought it could have been the suspect. And then there's 3 officers versus 1, right?
Yes.
Okay, continue, please. Pause, please. All that time, the shooter was shooting up the school,
The exterior, yes.
and they were right there. And at some point in that time, Saucedo asked to shoot that guy. At some point. We don't know when, right?
Correct.
But before he made it into the school, right?
Correct.
So for this 30 some odd seconds, you had individuals here, and we saw the video, that were taking cover and they weren't being shot at. We can criticize that if we want to. But they didn't act to stop the shooter from getting into school.
They didn't take action at that particular moment, but there was a short time period from when they arrived there.
There's a short time period for Adrian too, right?
It's not that short.
So I want to make sure you said a very specific statement there. You said not that short. So you're saying from over here, you think Adrian should have acted over these guys, right? Essentially, to say it.
He had the opportunity.
He had the opportunity to act here over these guys
Before they arrived at the scene.
for those 20 seconds.
It was actually
25 seconds.
so from the time Mr. Gonzalez got on the radio and said shots fired, which is confirmation that he's progressed through any type of auditory exclusion or tunnel vision. He's processing information, or at least he's given some verbal confirmation of that.
Mm-hmm.
So from the point when he gets on the radio and says shots fired until the shooter enters through the west door was
Mhm.
approximately 50 seconds.
They're part of that 50 seconds.
They're a part of the latter half of the 50 seconds.
They're part of the 50 seconds.
They are inside.
Did they say shots fired?
I don't recall any of their video traffic having that.
Because they didn't do anything. So they didn't say shots fired, but your position is, and we'll move on, that Adrian had a better opportunity than these three men together with a long rifle that had line of sight. He didn't. On the same side as the shooter. You're just saying Adrian had a better opportunity. That's all.
I'm just saying that he had an opportunity and had access to more information.
Play, please. this shooter's in the building and they're not going to that door, are they? They saw him go in. They didn't go to the door?
They did not on foot go in that direction.
Did they drive in that direction?
They're driving up Geraldine.
Pause, please. Did they drive in this direction?
They did not drive in that direction.
See, because for these kids, no one gives a crap about this street, right? You understand that, right? Where Hill is over here, see, he's already parked over here, hanging out, standing around. No one cares about this street. You can smile all you want. He's standing around, right?
He is momentarily.
What was funny about what I said right there? Why did you smile?
Argumentative, Your
Well, I want to
Honor.
know why you smiled, Judge.
Objection argumentative.
I didn't
I'll
smile.
sustain the objection.
I was merely just licking my lips because my mouth is dry.
Okay, get some water, please. You have a lot of water there. So nobody cares about this street.
Sidebar comment, Your Honor.
Sustained.
So he didn't drive to this. He didn't drive to this door. did he?
Objection asked and answered, Your Honor.
All right, sustained.
They drove around. They drove around.
They drove in the direction of where they believe the gunshots were coming from. I believe. I'm not them.
So you seem to want to put yourself in their mind to make
Objection to
excuses
sidebar,
for
Your
them.
Honor.
I'm asking, he can say no. I'm asking him a
I'll
question.
overrule that objection. Ask the question, please.
Okay, are you making excuses for them, yes or no?
No.
Okay. So they drive this way to where Hill's hanging out, right? And they don't drive there. We're past that, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Play, please. Pause. So what time did he start assaulting those children at that door?
I have to look.
It's
at
11:33:22, but verify please, because I don't want anybody saying that.
Correct. 11:33:20.
Okay. So he's already been shooting for 13 seconds and these dudes are just hanging out there and they're driving away, right?
They're relocating in a.
Listen to my question, please. He's been shooting he's been assaulting these precious babies for 13 seconds and these guys are hanging out and they drive away.
No,
They didn't drive away?
I don't consider that direction away.
The direction, their actions, was that helping these children?
They were moving in the I can't testify to what
Well, use your
they
common
were
sense.
doing.
Their actions, what they were doing right now, was that helping these children?
I can't answer that question. I can tell you that.
Hold on, look at this jury. Tell them you can't answer that question. You can't answer that question whether them driving away
After
was
the
helping those
answer,
children? Answer that question.
Am I allowed to answer this question?
My question you are, I'm asking the question.
May I stand?
Yes, sir, please.
Around this area right here is when Sergeant Coronado gets on the radio, somewhere in this area, and relays the information. I think he made it into the building, guys.
And how does that help? How is their action, not his words, how is his actions helping those children?
If he says, I think they made it into the building,
Uh-huh.
guys, it is possible that when
Okay.
he gets here, he doesn't see the shooter and is letting them know, I don't see them on that side of the building, and he may have made it into the building.
Just for argument's sake, I'm gonna take your where you wanna go with this, okay? I think he made it into the building, but these guys don't run to the building, they drive around it, right?
They moved to another area to set up. I can't tell
Can you
what
listen,
they were
can you listen to my,
thinking.
you have great hearing, you can determine where gunfire is. Listen to my question.
Objection to sidebar, Your Honor.
Sustained, I'm sorry, Judge,
Sustained.
I'm sorry, Judge. And so, he says, I think he made it into the building. They don't drive to the building, right?
They do not drive
Objection asked and
directly.
answered many times.
Sustained.
So in your opinion, their behavior, their actions are helping these children after they know this guy's in the building? Just yes or no?
I don't know what all
Yes or
the
no?
information.
Yes or no?
I can't answer that question, yes or no.
Just say, I don't want to answer the question then. You don't want to answer
Objection
that.
to
I
sidebar,
do
Your Honor.
want to answer the
Sustained.
question.
Okay. And so can you please play the video? A lot of shooting going on right now, right?
Yes.
What's Hill doing? Tactically, what's he doing there? Pause,
At this
please.
point, I am not Officer Hill. I did not interview Officer Hill.
Did you
I-
review his interview?
I reviewed a portion of his interview.
Okay, what did he say in that portion? What portion did you read? What is he doing in that corner?
He responded to that intersection for a crash. I do not recall the details.
Where's the
of
crash at?
tragedy.
Where's the crash at?
Where's the crash at, or where
Yes,
was
sir.
it dispatched?
I don't, both. Give me both.
Crash location is here. The dispatch to 715 Old Carrizo Road is gonna put it actually on the front side of the school.
And with that wrong dispatch information, it said shot fired at the school, right? Everyone knew there was shooting at the school.
There were several transmissions.
So why is Hill standing there?
He wasn't standing there for very long. I can't answer the question because I'm not Officer Randy Hill.
Okay. And so these, can you keep playing? A lot of shooting going on still, right?
Yes.
You still with Melanie?
I can't tell you exactly where he's at this point.
Now, pause please. Now, out of all these officers, how many of them knew how many of them knew that the shooter was in the building?
I don't know.
Well, you knew these three did, right? Or you don't know that either?
I don't know what they heard on the radio.
So you don't know what anybody heard on the radio, you just know what's dispatched?
I know what was dispatched, and if there's not an acknowledgement on the radio by the receiving officer, you can't confirm that they received the information.
Play, please. And while this is playing, you're the one that you created this.
The animation?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it changes things up knowing that there's 2 to 7 minutes with Melanie Flores here, correct? That's a factor that would have been helpful to have.
Not in creating the animation.
No, I know that, but I mean in your assessment. Okay, pause please. So we have Donald Page showing up, correct?
Yes.
So at some point, you know that Melody, after the 2 to 7 minutes, whichever one it is, and Adrian's with her, she breaks off and she goes to a room here.
Correct.
And she describes Donald Page as Adrian Gonzalez.
I was unaware of that.
Did you look at her interviews?
I looked at the initial interview and then did not look at any subsequent interviews.
Her interviews and her testimony said that Adrian Gonzalez was wearing khaki pants, a short white shirt, and had a full beard. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
But Donald Page goes here, and in your, keep playing please, sir. Adrian leaves cover when he sees Donald Page, and he goes to Donald Page. You know that part, right?
We actually can verify those
Pause.
movements from Sergeant Coronado's body cam.
Well, we've seen the body cam. He's running, it's moving, it's not looking at Donald Page and Adrian in all their contexts. We know that at 11:35:09, Page is driving onto the campus, right? Roughly?
Roughly, yes.
I mean, you can check your timeline. So at 11:35:09, Donald Page is coming in. 11:35:10, Coronado's body cam turns on. And so when Page gets there, Coronado sees Page and Adrian there for they're there for just seconds together, right? Just on the timelines.
I looked at Sergeant Coronado's body camera frame by frame.
I understand.
And you could actually see significant movement from both Donald Page and Mr. Gonzalez.
Yeah, significant movement towards the school, right?
They were walking.
They're going towards the school, right?
Yes.
And so Page is driving in seconds before Coronado's camera turns on. Adrian comes out from cover. Melody leaves him. This is all within seconds. He goes to Page, and then there's significant movement. They're already moving towards the school when Coronado's running up, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And then there's another round of shooting, and it sounds louder from Coronado's because it's on his body, but shots fired, and he says all that. But when you look at the frame, Page and Adrian have already darted into the building.
They moved, but they were walking.
Then you didn't look at the same video I did. When he's there, he's walked before the shots. As soon as those shots go off and Coronado starts yelling, you look at the frame again. Paige and Adrian are in that building. You remember that, right?
I do know that Donald Page was the first, and
By how many seconds?
Gonzalez.
Look at your timeline.
I believe it was approximately a second to 2 seconds.
No, 1 second. Look at your timeline, please.
So the entry time for Mr. Gonzalez was 11:35:48, and the entry time for Mr. Page was 11:35:46.
Okay. But you understand that you know now that when they went there, and I guess someone can ask Paige, that Adrian opened the door for him and then Paige came in. And that happens tactically many times, right?
I couldn't tell who opened the door.
But tactically, when you have two people, that's a smart move. Somebody opens the door, someone comes in, and then the person that opened the door comes in behind them, right? Tactically.
That is a tactical
Okay.
option.
And so if that happened, that makes sense.
Yes,
But they essentially both came in at the same time.
very close.
Okay. And then so by the time Coronado and the chief make it in there, Paige and Adrian are down the hall.
Yes,
Okay. So you agree that they both acted.
at that point, yes.
They're acting, they're in, and they put themselves in danger by running inside of the building.
Yes,
And you can see that the smoke from the firing of the AR-15.
yes,
And you see Adrian's gun out, right?
Yes.
Side ready. And then there's Paige ahead of him, right?
yes.
And then you don't depict it on here, but there's 2 or 3 officers on this side, Martinez. And
Correct.
who else? And who else on this side?
Sergeant Canales
Canales.
and Lieutenant Martinez were the first 2 to enter the west door, and then there are other officers that came in very quickly after them.
So you have 4 officers initially though. The first 4 officers are, well, first Paige and Adrian are the first 2, right?
Correct.
Then Martinez and Canales come in on the west side.
Sergeant Canales, Lieutenant Martinez, and Detective Landry were the next 3 that came in.
Okay, so 5, those 5 officers. These are the initial 5 officers, correct?
Correct.
And we still have Hill up here, Mendoza and Saucedo doing something.
They formed into a smaller unit of police officers, and can I stand up there?
Please.
And I don't know, I think they came through here, but I'm not exactly sure. They ended up coming
From shooting from the shooter.
yes.
And then we see, once that happens, because we can see Coronado's, you see that Adrian and Paige, they don't run away.
Correct.
And that hallway, and we're not going to belabor this because these are experts on fatal funnels. I mean, that's a fatal funnel.
Yes.
I mean, there's no cover there at all,
No, there's only concealment.
at best, right? But I'm saying is, but still, Sergeant Paige and Adrian, they don't cower and they don't run away.
Correct.
They stay in the funnel.
They move off to the side into a concealment area.
Right, but not right away.
It was within the first few seconds because shots continued to be fired.
Continued to be fired, but that's normal for someone to do that. But thankfully, apparently, the shooter didn't know there was officers on the left side because anybody could have done this and swung that rifle back around the other way and shot down that hall towards Paige and Adrian, correct?
Now, the shooter's already in to room 111 at this point.
I'm just saying that but the shooter could have come out and shot and continued to shoot down the hallway. All I'm saying is it's a dangerous situation for all 5 of those officers.
Yes, it's dangerous, very dangerous.
And all 5 of them are there, right?
Yes.
Okay. And even though shots rang out, and like you said, multiple shots rang out, Adrian remained in that danger.
For a period of time, yes.
Yeah, well, those other officers didn't even subject themselves to that, right? The other ones outside?
Which ones are you referring to?
The same ones we've been talking about, sir. All these. The ones that formed a little huddle over here, they didn't go inside that building.
There were some that did go in, but Randy Hill was in a group that stayed outside on the east side of the fourth grade building.
Right. And he was the one dispatched initially to that first call, right?
Yes.
Let me say this to you, good point, Jason. So see, Mr. Limones gave testimony to this jury that there was no way for Adrian to see that shooter based off where the shooter was hiding at one point. You don't know that, but I'm telling you that, okay?
If that was his testimony.
It was. But your animation puts the shooter, I mean, almost at Adrian's door as he's driving by, right? You would agree with that?
I wouldn't say he was almost at his door.
Well, that's what it looks like. Is that fair?
I can't place him exactly, but it's going to be in the general area somewhat close, but I can't
What I'm
say
saying
for
is,
sure.
if this jury didn't have this context of this back and forth, and they only looked at that animation, it could be perceived that the shooter is right at Adrian's door as he's driving by. Could be perceived that way. You can say no.
I don't think it could be perceived that he was right at his door, but it could be perceived, rightfully so, that he was in the general area and fairly close.
Okay. Now, the government asked you a question about what the three officers did at the corner, Coronado, Mendoza, and Saucedo, and when they dispersed and they relocated. He said it makes sense that they needed to fan out to find the gunman, and you said yes. Do you remember that question?
From the prosecution?
Yes, sir, on direct examination.
Yes.
Do you understand what he meant by fan out?
Are you talking about Mendoza, Saucedo,
That's where this
Coronado?
question came from, yes, sir.
I wouldn't say necessarily a fan out, but we don't know at that point if any of those three officers, and Sergeant Coronado was in the front, actually saw the shooter enter through the west door.
But we kind of do. That's what I'm saying. So I guess my question was, it makes sense to fan out to find the gunman. You didn't need to find the gunman. They knew exactly where he was.
I don't know that they knew exactly where he was.
They knew he was on the west side of the building.
Objection, Your Honor, this is repetitive.
Sustained.
Now, there was a comparison between Saucedo and Gonzalez, and he gave you different scenarios about what Saucedo knew and was available to him versus Gonzalez, right?
Yes.
And I won't go through it all, but you still take the position that Adrian had a better opportunity and ability over Saucedo, correct?
Objection, repetitive.
That was specific questioning he asked at the end of his direct examination, only about Saucedo, Judge.
Okay. Let's see, wrap this up. I'll let you ask that question, but unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, as much as I would love to finish this witness, and they've still got redirect to go, we're not gonna be able to do it because that juror has to leave at 3 o'clock. So next week, clear your schedules, because we're gonna work from 8:30 to probably 5:30 every day. And if you wanna bring your lunch and eat in the jury room, that's perfectly fine with me. All right? Finish up, Mr. Litt.
Yes, sir. So your position is that Saucedo specifically had a better positioning and that Gonzalez, Adrian had a better opportunity and ability than Saucedo.
Initially, right after Adrian Gonzalez parked, and more specifically when he was able to communicate over the radio that shots were fired, he's now to a point where he's processed the information. He is in a position where he can confront the threat outside along the west wall. He's already had the ability to process the shooting and to process the information, as opposed to the other three officers.
But you're making that decision. He's processing that information in 25 seconds before they show up with no line of sight, right? That's your position.
Well, he confirmed it with his radio transmission of
He
shots
confirmed
fired,
hearing shots, right?
which meant he could distinguish shots being fired.
Well, anybody can distinguish a shot being fired. I'm just saying, but that didn't confirm he knew